Hello and welcome to our Cheltenham Festival preview, looking ahead to the Ryanair chase, run over 2 miles 5 furlongs on the third day of the Cheltenham Festival, the Thursday. With me we've got Mick Fitzgerald here, 14 times Cheltenham Festival winning jockey. I've also got Andy Gibson, the professional gambler as well, who's going to tell us exactly which horse to back here. Let's first of all check out the entries. Lots of entries, 3 pages in fact. Headed, of course, by Alberta's Run, winner for the past 2 years, and, of course, going for a 4th successive win at the Cheltenham Festival. Captain Chris, for Paddy the Plasterer, the dear old horse from Ireland. That's something very special. Kalahari King there, Ferdy Murphy. Always seems to do so well, doesn't he? Ferdy Murphy at the Cheltenham Festival. Medamit there, Alan King's horse. Will he run here? Will he go for the Gold Cup? If he runs in either race, I think he's a major contender. Riverside Theatre, there's Johnny Henderson's horse, owned by the actor James Nesbitt. And wow, wouldn't that be something if he could take centre stage there? And on page 3 of the entries for the Ryanair, there's Tranquil Sea, Wishful Thinking and Blazing Tempo. Let's change those entries into how Ladbrokes bet on the Ryanair. And Riverside Theatre is 4-1. Ruby Light, the Big Hope of Ireland, 9-2. Noble Prince is 5. Summersby 6s. Medabit 7s. And look at Alberta's Run. And can John Joe get him right to do it for a 3rd time? If he can, that 8-1 could look very big indeed. Let's have a look at Ruby Light. Ruby Light, a horse who is really special. Remember this horse winning at Garan last time out.
Final fence now in the Red Mills, and Ruby Light is clear of Chicago Grey, apt approach and Trafford Lad, and coming up towards the finish, Ruby Light has made all now to follow up last year's victory in the Red Mills, and Ruby Light, a fine winner for the Hennessy's and Andrew Lynch.
Yeah, he's owned by the Hennessy family. I always stay with them. We always get together at Cheltenham. Great family, and they've got a pedigree, haven't they?
They certainly have. Of course, Sublimity carried those colours to victory when trained by John Carr in the Champion Hurdle, and you know there's a real link there as well. The Carberry family, you know, with the horse being recommended to them from Francois Cotton, that's where they bought him. But I like this horse. I just think he needs to have soft ground to show his best. Ran at the festival last year and actually ran okay. Couple of niggly little mistakes last year. If he irons them out, he's a major player here in this race. But again, have to have some rain for him, because like, if the ground is quick or decent, he'll struggle. Well,
if it is on the slowish side, you know, and we did have that rain, didn't we? Very heavy rain a few days ago. If that is the case on the Thursday, would he be a major player for you?
Well, in the unlikely event of it coming up soft on the Thursday, if you could get 9-2 for this horse, that would be a fantastic price, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He would be the one massively advantaged by soft ground, but equally he'd be one of those most inconvenienced by good ground. So, you know, 9-2 you wouldn't want to be on, I don't think.
This is the John Durkin Memorial. I mean, well, look, we know he's an outstanding horse. How much is it going to take away? Say it's good on the Thursday. Would you not back him?
No.
Why not?
I just think he really is inconvenienced. And, you know, the difference between riding a horse like this on good ground and riding him on soft ground is the very same as driving it's the same as driving a car with a flat tyre.
It's that big a difference.
It is that big a difference. And you get a horse like him on soft ground, he will be like, it'll be driving down a motorway as opposed to a country lane. Right. That is the difference between riding a horse who loves it soft on fast ground. On fast ground, he'll be just always going that little stride too quick. He won't be in his comfort zone.
As he was last year.
Yes,
he was third last year, and the, you know, he's got Alberta's Run in the field again. He's got Pocalan, who finished next to him. You could argue he's a stronger, better horse this year, and that may be so, but that doesn't mean he's going to like the good ground any better, does it?
You mentioned Alberta's Run there. I think that 8-1 could be an outstanding price about a horse who's going for a 3rd time, and John Joe thinks he might have him right, if that's the case.
If that's the case, well, then it will be a great price. And, you know, we've talked already about repeat offenders. If this horse is he's a serial offender, a winner of the RSA, winner of this race twice. He just loves the way the races are run around Cheltenham. And, you know, John Joe, what a story that would be were he to get this horse back to win, of course, in those now famous colours of Trevor Hemmings. But I just think that he's up against it this year. And I think, you know, we haven't seen him all season. And this would be the training performance, I think, of a lifetime.
This is a stronger race as well, you'd have to say, than the 2 he's won. This has got more strength in depth in it. At the early entry stage, it's got 11 horses who are rated 160 or higher. Now, this is a good race.
That brings in Noble Prince, who won the Jewson last year, and I'm just looking at its price here at 5 to 1. Let's have a visual clue about this horse. This was at Fairyhouse, and what beat him? Blazing Tempo, didn't it?
Blazing Tempo. You know, Blazing Tempo is entered in everything at the Cheltenham Festival, and you'd have to say that, you know, if she were to turn up in this race, she could be a player at a huge price. But again, you know, maybe she does have to have soft. Noble Prince, you know, this Cheltenham Festival winner, we love the way the race is run, but you wonder, is he just short of the class required?
Ground as well, Andrew?
He'll love the ground. And he's run 4 times this year on very soft ground, which wouldn't have suited him. He's run over 2 miles 4 times, which again wouldn't have suited him. And clearly this horse has been targeted at this race all year. He is the one that has, this is the target. And for me, he'd be as good as anything in the race. Would I want to back him at 5 to 1 in a race where I think there's 6 or 7 plausible winners? Probably not. But if I had to have a number 1, Noble Prince would be it.
Interesting, Noble Prince. Let's have a look at the home side. Obviously, Riverside Theatre is a horse very close to your heart. And Jimmy Nesbitt just loves his racing. I mean, this would be great in the winner's enclosure if this horse wins.
It certainly would.
Wow.
He's filming as well at the Hobbit at the minute in New Zealand. He's been there for the last couple of years doing it. And, you know, he goes back to New Zealand after this on the 1st of April. And, you know, he's desperate for this horse to run at Cheltenham and win. And it would be a great story. This was a great performance by this horse, a very taking performance. He hadn't run for 12 months prior to running in this. The worry would be for me, could that have been his Ryanair? And could that have been the race that he runs all season? If that's the case, well then, you know, you'd worry.
The bounce, yeah, a lot of people are going to say the bounce, you know, where the horse comes back after a long layoff, runs a fantastic race. We all think he's going to improve another 7 or 8 pounds, and he fly. Does that worry you?
Well, and some horses do bounce, some don't. And with Riverside Theatre, I think we have evidence that suggests that he might, in that he's 5 from 5 first time out. His form figures when he returns to race within 30 days as 2nd, 4th and 3rd. He was, in his 2nd bumper run, he ran worse than in the 1st bumper run. That was 34 days difference between those 2 races. He fell 5 out at Punchestown, going nowhere when he ran within 37 days of running in the Arkle. There's a number of reasons to at least... I mean, he has a chance if everything goes well for him, but he's 4 to 1 favourite with some real concerns about whether he can run as well on Thursday as he did first time out after a long break.
Interesting stat there. What about the horse he beat? And Medimit there, I know he's in the Gold Cup, but I mean, Medimit is a lovely horse, and Alan King's horses at that stage were just beginning to come back to form. Chuck Thornton, after missing a lot of the season, that would be special. And of course, we had him winning earlier in the season, didn't we?
Yeah, he's a very smart horse, and it'd be interesting to hear from Alan King and hear what he's got to say.
OK, listen, I'll keep your thoughts. Let's hear from the trainer, first of all, of Medimit, Alan King.
There have been very few disappointments, maybe that little blip at Huntingdon, but I mean, if the ratings and everyone's to believe, he's improved with every race this season, and I think his last run at Ascot was a career best. He's obviously in the Ryanair and he's in the Gold Cup, and I don't know where he's going to go. I really don't. We'll see what the weather does. And
what would be the deciding factors there?
Well, if it came up slow ground or soft ground, I think we'll almost certainly stick to the Ryanair. Yeah. If it comes up good, then we might go Gold Cup. We'll see. We'll have a chat with the owners, and they feel, you know, they might never have another run in a Gold Cup, and you know, the horses had a great season. If they want to go down that route, why not?
And 3 1/4 miles with that?
Well, it's an unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he'll stay. He'll certainly get 3. Whether he'll get 3 1/4 in a Gold Cup's another thing, but you can't win if you're not in.
OK, Gold Cup or Ryanair? If you were Alan King, what would you do with Medimit?
Well, I'm not Alan King. It sounds like I'm there. They might take their chance in the Gold Cup.
I know.
And, you know, you can see the reasons why with the recent news, of course, about Coto Star. But he ran such a good race behind Riverside Theatre. If Riverside Theatre doesn't run to that level of form, Medimit is a player. He was disappointing last year. That would be the only worry for me at the festival. And like we say, is he another horse that we call a repeat offender who, you know, is not quite up to the mark? The only thing I would say is Alan King's team this year is a more dangerous team than last year's team, because they just seem to be performing up to their mark on a regular basis.
And he's been more consistent this year, Medimit, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
You know, he was a little bit quirky once or twice, wasn't he, previously? But he's been really consistent, and he's got good Cheltenham form this year as well.
Andrew, if he runs in this, would you back him?
No.
Why not?
Two reasons. First of all, he's only 7 to 1. The form behind Riverside Theatre, he might finish 3 lengths behind Riverside Theatre this time as well, and he might finish 5th. This is a really tough race, and with a lot of horses in with chances. He's a little bit short. I think has a decent chance of finishing in the first few. He might be good enough, but you know, he just wouldn't carry any of my money at 7-1.
Let's have a look at Somersby, because he's round about 6-1, isn't he? And I mean, this is him winning at Ascot. And I mean, he's a lovely horse. Beat Finian's Rainbow. There's nothing wrong with this form. It's rock solid.
This form is solid.
You know,
I'm a big fan of Somersby's. He's not got a greatest win record, but there's no doubting his ability. And I think, you know, Dominic Ellsworth is really getting a tune out with this horse, and I think they get on well together, and that can count for a lot. I just think he's got a lot of confidence in the horse, and you know, that can come through. How
important is the jockeyship at Cheltenham? I mean, these guys are all top boys anyway, aren't they?
They are, but the thing is, you've got to look at these guys, and it can be the difference between winning and losing, going inside or outside, going down to an obstacle. I always say, if you're riding around Cheltenham and you get brought down, people say, oh, you're unlucky. You're not unlucky if you're following a 20-1 shot. And that's the difference between the top jockeys. They will not be following the 20-1 shots. They'll be following the horses they need to follow. They'll be aware of where they are in the race, how the race is being run, how fast, how slow, whether they need to make a move or not. Experience is vital.
And 2 mile 5, how would you ride a 2 mile 5 chase at Cheltenham? Is it a race where you can win it from the front? Is it a race where you can come from behind?
Well, the thing is, you can't win the race at the start, but you can certainly lose it. And I think it's important to be in the right place at the very start, in the right place when you at the top of the hill. And the thing is, again, it's pace in the race, what's going to make the running. All that factors into your thinking. As Ruby Walsh once said, he rides the race 20 times before he actually goes out to ride in it, because you've got to cover every eventuality. That's what you do as a jockey. You ride the race over and over and over. What happens if this runs? What happens if this falls? Suddenly the race changes, so you have to be aware of all those things.
I know.
And presumably there's no correct place to be. There's just a correct place for your horse. I mean, if your horse is a front runner, you certainly wouldn't want to be hanging around with him. If your horse needs to be held up, you're not going to do something different just because it's a Cheltenham Festival.
But that's the difference, you see, between experience. A trainer will say to you, I want this horse 4th or 5th. Well, there's no point in being 4th or 5th if they're crawling and you're on a horse that lacks a gear. The thing is, you've got to adapt and change the tactics. And that's why Willie Mullins, when Ruby Walsh rides for Willie, he doesn't give him orders. He just lets him get on with it.
And it's also why it's the same top jockeys every time that are having 4 and 5. I mean, this is the racing here is obviously so competitive, and yet year after year you get the same 3 or 4 jockeys that win 2, 3 or 4 races. That's no coincidence, is it?
No.
Who wins the Ryanair?
I would think Noble Prince has the best chance of winning. I wouldn't. 5-1 is a little bit tight. Poquelin will run very well. Joint top-rated horse. He was a short price favourite for this race last year when he came 4th.
16-1.
He was 3rd the year before. He's been available at 20-1. I've had a small interest at 20s. Kalahari King was available at 33-1. Another of Mick's repeat offenders. He's 2nd in an Arkle, 2nd in this last year.
Ferdy always gets him right, doesn't he?
I do think this is a race to have a small pop at a couple each way rather than go for one of the shorties.
So the 2 each way are?
For me, I've gone for Poquelin at 20s and Kalahari King at 33s.
That is interesting. Mick?
I like Somersby. I think at an each-way price he's backable. Ruby Light, if the ground comes up very soft.
Will Somersby go for this, Mick?
To be a player.
If he does.
I'm hoping he runs in the other race, in the 2 mile.
That's what we said. If he does, if these horses run as we are looking at them now, which one wins them? Well, I tell you what, guys, I always think, you know, there's a fairy tale. Alberta's run to win 3 Ryanairs in a row. Now that would be very special. What do you think?